guys, and welcome back to Junior Master Gardeners. I'm Ms Kristin.
And I'm Ms Sarah.
This week we will be learning about what ingredients we need to put in our compost. Last week we learned all about recycling. Ms Sarah, do you remember what kind of things we can recycle?
We can recycle plastic, metals, glass, and paper.
That is exactly right, Ms Sarah. Good job.
Ms Kristin, I remember last week that you were saying the earth recycles too, but I can't remember what that's called.
Yes, Ms Sarah, that is called composting. And we use composting to make new healthy soil to grow even more food. And here is our compost cycle right here. We take food waste and we put it in our compost bin. It sits there for quite a few months and it turns into brand new, really healthy soil with lots of nutrients to grow new food. Last week, we learned all about what we can put in our compost pile right here. Ms. Sarah, do you have any ideas of what we can put in our compost pile?
I think I do. I think I remember you saying that we can put our food scraps in there, like our veggies and maybe our apple cores.
Yeah, perfect. Why don't we go ahead and put those in there?
Awesome.
Beautiful.
I also remember you saying that maybe if our parents drank coffee, we could put their coffee grounds in there.
Oh, yeah.
And I also remember you saying that paper can be put in there as well.
Yeah, paper products.
Does that include newspapers?
It does. We've got like used paper towels, newspaper. You could even put cardboard in there if you would like. So let's put our newspaper in there too. So those are a few things we can put into our compost pile that we use every day. But right now, we're gonna go through all of the ingredients a compost needs in order to make that new healthy soil. Our first ingredients are greens. These greens add nutrients to the soil. Do you remember in our PLANTS lesson? That N stands for plants need nutrients. And that's why we put our greens into our compost pile. They give nitrogen nutrients. And our greens consist of our food scraps and extra foods, our coffee grounds that we might get from our parents, like Miss Sarah said, or grass clippings. Let's go ahead and start building our compost pile behind us. We're gonna go ahead and put this guy on the wall, and as we get into more of our ingredients, we're gonna build a giant pile to fill our compost with. What's our next ingredient?
Our next ingredient are browns. And our browns add nutrients to the soil as well. They can be made up of our twigs, leaves, and paper. And what they add is carbon.
Carbon. Very nice. Let's go ahead and put our browns in the pile. Our next ingredient are bugs. We have tons of bugs in the compost pile, and these help to break down all the things that we have put in order to get it to be that nice, fine soil. Can you guys think of any bugs that you might find in the dirt or compost pile? Miss Sarah, what's your favorite bug to find in a compost pile?
Mine are definitely the worms.
Mine, I think, are the roly-polies. But you can also find things like beetles or centipedes. There's tons of bugs. So if you have a compost pile at home, go ahead and see if you can see any bugs on top or crawling around near it.
Our next ingredient is heat. And we get our heat from the sun. And so when we get heat in our compost pile, it helps break down all the materials as well as kill any bad things that could be growing in the compost pile.
Oh, so heat must be pretty important, Miss Sarah. Let's go ahead and put that in our compost pile as well. The next ingredient our compost pile needs, plants need as well. Do you guys remember what that T stood for in our PLANTS plant needs? Miss Sarah, do you have any ideas?
I think it stood for thirsty.
Thirsty. Yes, so our compost pile gets thirsty too. It needs water. And the water is used to help break down all the things in the pile so we can get that good, healthy soil again. Wow, Miss Sarah, our pile is looking pretty full here, but I feel like we have one more ingredient.
I think you're right. The last but certainly not least ingredient would be air. So our air helps make the pile a little bit less stinky.
That's an important thing, especially I feel like if your compost is in your backyard, you don't want a stinky compost pile, so you gotta get air into it. You gotta take a shovel and turn it all around to get nice, healthy air in there. Wow, Miss Sarah, this is a great looking compost pile we have. It has all 6 of our ingredients. Now, I want you guys to review with me. So I'm gonna ask what is in each ingredient, and I want you guys to think about your answer and think about what kind of examples those could be. Miss Sarah will help you out, of course. Let's think about our greens. What could we put in the compost pile that would be green?
I think that could be our vegetable scraps. So any leftover pieces of carrots or apples, maybe even some coffee grounds too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. What do we need to put in our compost pile for our browns category? Miss Sarah, do you have any ideas?
I'm gonna say our browns will be our paper, leaves, and twigs.
Exactly. What about bugs? What kind of bugs might we find in the compost?
I know I will find my favorite bug, little worms in there.
And roly-polies. What is the job of the bugs, do you guys think? Do you remember? Miss Sarah?
It is to help break down those pieces of vegetable scraps and leaves and twigs.
Yes, and what did those leaf and twigs add? It starts with an N from our PLANTS. Do you guys remember?
It's nutrients.
Nutrients. What is our orange section of the compost? Do you remember what that is, Miss Sarah?
That is going to be our heat that we get straight from the sun.
Heat. And what does heat do to our compost pile?
It helps break everything down, and it also kills anything bad that could be growing in there.
Yes. And then what is our blue section? Remember, plants need this too.
That's going to be our water.
Water. And what does water help us with?
That also helps break down our pile.
Exactly. And our last but not least, one of the most important things a compost pile needs, what's our tippy top of our pile?
That's going to be our air.
Air. And what does the air help with?
Making sure it's not super stinky.
Making sure that pile doesn't smell. And how do we get the air, Miss Sarah?
You just take your shovel and you just flip your compost around and get some air in there.
Yep. So it is pretty easy to have all the components of the compost pile. As you can see, so many of these items are things that you would have at home. You could even make your own compost pile at home if you have your parents' permission and have the earth recycle for you. Well, that's all we have today. Thank you so much for participating, and we hope you learned something.